What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Trevi here again from Way of the Swan with another super awesome battle report. This time we have the final round of the Nova Open Masters. Very exciting stuff. We have some awesome Retribution versus Cygnar action going on. Two Colossals in this matchup. Super great. We get to see the big stompy robots walk in the middle of the table and punch each other, and it's very exciting. Before we get into everything, I just want to announce real quick, there is still time left. There's about a week left, 2 weeks, sorry, just under 2 weeks left on the dice giveaway. So if you haven't seen that, there's a video on my channel about it. You can check it out, and you can learn how to get some sweet Way of the Swan dice that look really great and roll great too, let me tell you. Anyway, the matchup we got today in this Nova Open Final is Assyria, the Sibyl of Dawn, versus Commander Coleman Striker. We have Mike Ireland here playing Assyria with a pretty standard Assyria list. The biggest surprise here is that he's got Cygnar, Rayfill, and Nis Hunters instead of the normally seen Mage Hunter Strike Force with either Strike Force Commander or Iris 3. One of those is usually seen. They do a ton of damage on the feet turn, and with Phantom Barrage it helps. But the thing here with Cygnar and the Nis Hunters is that Crusader's Call can help them out quite a bit, and now that they're faction models, they still shoot about as hard as Mage Hunter Strike Force do against everything that isn't a Warjack. The rest of the list is pretty standard, a Hyperion as well as an Arc Node to deliver Blinding Light, and then a whole big unit of Dawn Guard Sentinels in there to be a big beefy beat stick. Over here, we have my list. I'm playing in the finals here, and it is some sweet Striker 1 action. And when this matchup was announced during the Nova Open itself, people were like, what? Striker 1 in the finals of a tournament? That's crazy talk. And I was like, guys, what you smoking? Striker 1's been in my competitive pairing or at least my rotation for a really long time. He was really good in Mark II against the Bradigus Theme Force, and I think he's still got game now against some gun lines. And I was actually hoping to play him into Ret this tournament. I was expecting Oscion, though. I was kind of checking this list a little bit to play against Oscion, and then when I got paired against Mike in the final round and he dropped Assyria, I was a little sad. I was unfortunately locked into Striker in this round. I played Haley all my other rounds, and the other semifinals round in the final game was actually a Retribution mirror match, and I figured I wanted to play Cygnar or Striker into Retribution anyway, so I just played Haley into that game, won that game, and was locked into Striker in the finals. Now, the big issue in this matchup, I have 2 units of Stormblades, obviously, with Striker, and he can make them super duper resilient, especially since there's no way to ignore Arcane Shield or Blur on the Assyria side of the table. So they are going to get up the table pretty hard, and they're not going to take a ton of damage with all those Arcane Shields and all the defensives that Striker can bring. The issue is that Blinding Light really hurts this list, especially the Stormwall. What I usually want to be able to do is plug away with the Stormwall's guns at some of the heavier infantry in there, especially Dawn Guard Sentinels. There are 2 Arcane Tempest Riflemen in there to take shots at Dawn Guard Sentinels anyway, and if I can't do that because the stupid Stormwall gets Blinding Lighted every turn, it's going to be real sad. But we'll see how it goes. As you can see here, the scenario is Extraction. We have those 2 flags along the center of the board that the players can control for 1 point or dominate also for 1 point. And there's objectives that can be destroyed for 1 point as well. I believe we are both running Bunker this particular game, so both very resilient objectives. Here we have Retribution taking the first turn. The Retribution, Mike did win the roll for initiative, and just everything's running up really far. We can see the Hyperion there with Inviolable Resolve on it, and all of the Dawn Guard Sentinels going to run behind that wall that's going to keep them safe from the scary Mage-Lock Riflemen, who are super awesome at killing Dawn Guard Sentinels. We have a very aggressive run from the Nis Hunters here, moving up around that forest. It's going to keep them safe from some shooting early on, and they're going to be tasked this whole game with keeping that far flag clear, whereas the Retribution models are all over the lower flag there. That far flag is going to be pressured by the Stormlances pretty hardcore, and so those Nis Hunters, if they're able to take position behind the forest and just feed a couple models into the area of that flag to contest, they're going to be able to hold out for quite a long time. So next up, we have the storm wall trampling up to where that proxy base is. Everything's been measured out, and I cut a couple seconds off the footage here of just proxy bases going down. But we have the storm wall trampling up and putting a lightning pod down there in front of the rubble. Now you can see the Mage Hunter, a Mage Hunter assassin that's in that rubble and moved up pretty aggressively, and is going to be in range of some sweet Electroleap action on. From the lightning pod there. So here comes the Storm Lances getting, I think, one shot off. And Rupert did give them Pathfinder so they could move around the forest, but I don't know if they really needed it. It wouldn't have hurt for them to be a little farther away. So I don't know if that mattered so much. And I do believe Striker is going now. Yep, here he goes. And he's going to put some sweet spells down. Arcane Shield is going down on both of the Stormlance unit, so they're both going to be pumped up to that armor 20, and there's no Arcane Assassin in the Assyria list, so they're all going to be real armor 20, not fake armor 20. And last but not least, we have the Firefly with Snipe on it, which is actually one of my favorite innovations from this list, is that the Sniped Firefly is really exciting. But that took a shot at the Lightning Pod, hit, and finished off the Mage Hunter Assassin with that Electroleap. Here's the rest of this Stormlance unit running up onto this hill, also with Arcane Shield, so it's going to be a very tough unit. One of them, I think, getting in range of a Dawnguard Sentinel, potentially. I don't remember what the measurement there was. But the Stormlance is on the hill there, going to be defense 15, armor 20 against shooting, so pretty resilient unit. And Mike doing some pre-measuring of his own to see what the cannon on the Hyperion would clip. And I did leave Ragman a little too close to some models, and that was a mistake on my part. I should have measured the 5-inch AoE that the Hyperion can put down. To keep Ragman a little safe, I don't think it mattered this turn, but it does in the future, or in future games. One mistake I did make on my turn is that I Pathfindered the minimum Stormlance unit on the far side there, like I said, and I didn't really need to. It just gave two of the Stormlances a little bit of extra movement, but it would have only cost them 1 or 2 inches to either skirt the rough terrain or move through it, or that forest next to the storm wall. And not doing that meant that I wasn't putting Dirge of Mist on the unit on the hill. And the unit on the hill, defense 15, armor 20, I thought was going to be pretty resilient. But what we're going to have here is, first of all, some Arcane Secrets from Silas onto Assyria. But we're going to have here is a Assyria feat turn. So we see that the Chimera is moved up to the center of the table there. He's in range of both the Storm Wall and the Storm Lances. So he's going to be able to Blinding Light those guys. And that's what I didn't take into account. The Blinding Light bringing them down to defense 13. And that makes it so that if Assyria feats, she's going to there goes some Blinding Light action. Hits both of those guys, so -2 defense on them, and obviously can't shoot. And that's the big issue with the Storm Wall. So needing 8s to hit with the guns on the Hyperion, pretty easy when you have effectively Signs Importance from Assyria's feet, and she's moving up behind the wall there, outside of the kill box pretty well, and putting her feet down for some sweet extra dice action. So I think that was an ancillary attack potentially to kill off the lightning pod. So showed that lightning pod who's boss. So here comes the Hyperion. This is a big deal. Hyperion moving up. It has all its focus from the Arcanist mechanics, and it moves up around the Chimera, around the Dawnguard Sentinels there, into a dominating position in the middle of the table, and is able to get just range on one of the Stormlances with its big cannon, and then its little guns on its fist. Its little PAL 12 guns are going to have range on a bunch of them. So one big gun shot into the center kills off one Stormlance, and I was basically expecting that. I was expecting one Stormlance to go down to the Starburst cannon shot. It's POW 18, only -2 on those guys, so as long as he hits it, he's a pretty good chance of killing them. What blew me away here is that the little guns start going, and Mike doesn't need to boost a hit because he has his feet, making it pretty reliable for him to hit. But he boosts damage, gets those 4 dice, drops the lowest, and ends up killing 2 Stormlances just with the POW 12 guns. So that surprised me, and like I said before, if I had put Dirge of Mist on those guys to give them concealment as well, a lot of those guns, the POW 12 guns, would have missed pretty definitively. Those guys would have been defense 17 down to defense 15 against range attacks. So a mistake on my part there, and that cost me a bunch of Storm Lances. So that's a big deal. And obviously this is starting out to be a great Assyria feat turn. What it's not going to let Assyria do is get the extra damage on the storm wall, which is a lot of times what I'm really worried about with her feat turn. But getting a big alpha that takes out this many storm lances is going to put her in a really good position later on in the game. So obviously that was a pretty big turn for Assyria, and I am very sad about how it turned out. But all is not lost. So I decided what to do this turn is I'm going to try to take out as many of those Dawn Guard Sentinels as possible. So we have the 2 Majak Riflemen going in and taking out those 2 in the front there. And then those Storm Lances are going to try to take out as many as they can as well, those 2 remaining Storm Lances. So to that end, we see those Storm Lances charging in right there. We get the 2 Storm Lances, get clean charges off, and they're able to take out 3 Dawn Guard Sentinels. I think I got a lucky Electroleap in there. Putting the total dead Dawn Guard Sentinels to 5 for this turn. Now, obviously, I would have liked to plug away at them with Stormwall as well, but that was not to be because of Blinding Light. So the rest of the turn is hopefully going to be centered around trying to clear that upper flag there and scoring a scenario point. These 2 Storm Lances up there charged into some Nis Hunters. We're able to take out 4 Nis Hunters and then reposition back to the flag. The Firefly, still with snipe on it, moved up and took a shot at the clump of Nis Hunters behind the forest. Was able to get line of sight to one of them. Unfortunately, it missed, and that really sucked because it could have potentially cleared out that whole clump and made it very difficult for my opponent to contest that flag in the future. As it stands, we just have the Storm Lances reposition onto it and just hold it, scoring 1 point for me at the end of this turn. We have some repositioning out of the storm wall as well. I knew it was going to get blinding lighted again, and I didn't really want to put it too far forward. Some people asked me why I didn't want to put the storm wall so far forward, especially since I was going to feat with Striker this turn. And really the reason for that was that I wanted it late game in order to threaten the Hyperion and really jam up and hopefully keep stuff away from that upper flag so I could potentially pull out a scenario win later on in the game. With concentrated power, the Hyperion can go up to very high power and strength, and the Dawn Guard Sentinels with Weapon Master, can potentially spike some damage rolls. So even with invincibility without Arcane Shield, I really wanted to keep it far back so it didn't get alpha struck very hard. So first up on the Retribution turn, we have some Vengeances from Dawn Guard Sentinels taking out one of those 2 Storm Lances at the bottom there. I'd upkept Arcane Shield in that unit, so the one in the back is armor 25, but the one that had had repositioned forward was not in range to receive the +5 armor from the feat. We see an apparition out of the Chimera, moving up close enough to get another blinding light off on the storm wall, shutting it down for another turn. Not really much I can do about that. Even if I was disrupted, there's enough Arcanist mechanics in the back there that they would be able to clear off the disruption off the Chimera and make it fully functional for another turn. So we have Silas moving up, putting Arcane Secrets onto Assyria, and then Assyria is moving up. She's moving up very aggressively this turn. This is actually a mistake on my opponent's part. We have a Blinding Light going down on the storm wall. And then she moved up and walked to the flag, walked and velocityed up to the flag, taking an ancillary attack with the Hyperion that ended up killing that Storm Lance, even through the +5 armor from the feat. Now, my opponent, Mike, thought that he could dominate that flag for 2 points. Unfortunately, they're like incursion flags. You can only dominate them for 1. And so Assyria's on that flag. She's controlling it, but she's not getting any extra points for dominating. The Hyperion is moving up now, and it takes a shot with the big cannon into, I believe, my objective. Now, the big thing here is that it can't really do much damage to my objective or the models behind it, but Mike does boost and get a crit with the Starburst Cannon, and Ragman was caught in the AoE, so he was removed from play. So that was a pretty big deal. Obviously, I can't threaten the Hyperion very much without Ragman's -2 armor debuff in the mix there. The Nis Hunter's moving up again to jam out those Storm Lances up on the top flag, although through Invincibility they don't get a lot of damage in. I think they end up spiking 1 damage roll and getting a couple damage in on 1 Storm Lance, but not actually killing anyone. And last but not least, on the Retribution turn, we have those Dawn Guard Sentinels moving up around Assyria to block off any potential assassination runs coming at her from unexpected angles. And then there they are, walling off around the Hyperion, keeping Assyria very safe. Now, Mike did give up potentially an assassination run this turn. She has one focus on her, so she can negate one spell that's cast on her or a model within 3 inches by just spending that focus. Fortunately, Striker comes stock with enough focus to cast 2 Earthquakes. So the idea potentially was to cast Earthquake on one of the Dawn Guard Sentinels that was right next to her to knock her down. She would have to Arcane Vortex the first one, but he has enough for 2, and he could try it again, try to hit a 6, or just hit her with a deviation and knock her over. Plan B was to put a Lightning Pod outside of the range for Arcane Vortex and hit that, or not outside of the range for Arcane Vortex, but close enough so that Striker wouldn't have to roll to hit the Dawn Guard Sentinel. But unfortunately, there was no real way for the Stormwall to get close enough to drop that Lightning Pod. That would have been followed up by a shot from Striker, as well as 2 shots from the Mage-Lock Rifleman. So not a lot of shots going in there. It was maybe a 10 or 20% assassination run, if that. But things weren't looking so great. It might have been my best option. I did definitely think about it. But I think I ended up just planning to go for the scenario game. With that in mind, I just start with the Mage-Lock Rifleman. One continues whittling down that Dawn Guard Sentinel unit, killing another Dawn Guard Sentinel with a deadly shot. The other one just runs to contest my opponent's flag, so Mike doesn't end up scoring on my turn. Next up, we have Arlen Strangeways. Give 1 focus to the Stormwall with Empower, and the Stormwall is going to sacrifice its movement so as not to trigger Admonition and throw the Chimera away. I was hoping to get some potentially crippling damage out onto the Chimera with his throw. Hit the Hyperion, obviously, for a big POW 17, but I don't know if I got much damage onto it. That also knocks it down, makes it much harder for that Chimera to move up and really get into my way. Especially with Admonition, and stop me from scoring that flag in future turns. We had a Lightning Pod go down and kill a Nis Hunter, so hopefully help to clear off the flag. And then the Firefly shot the Lightning Pod and killed another Nis Hunter. I was hoping to kill Cygnar as well, and that would give me a charge on my opponent's objective, so I could start getting damage on the objective, but Cygnar ended up surviving on 1 box, I think, so it was up to the Stormlances to take her out and clear the flag. So we have the Stormlances going now, taking their attacks on Cygnar there. They were able to take her out with a mount attack, I believe, and clear the flag. So that scores me a 2nd point, although unfortunately I wasn't able to get any attacks on my opponent's objective. I start running everything else around the back of the forest there, as you see Junior moving out over there, hopefully to get some extra attacks in to clear models out of that flag if I needed to. Or be other models I could control if Mike decides to try to clear off everything that could potentially control that flag. On Mike's turn, we have some Vengeance movements move up and get in range to make some attacks into the Firefly and the Stormlances there. 1 Vengeance move takes out the Arcane Tempest Rifleman that was controlling the flag, even though Iris is out of range to kill the other one. Those last couple Nis Hunters behind the forest there, moving around, just can't seem to kill those annoying guys. But they're coming around to get some swings off on the Stormlances. One of them moves up and kills the Lightning Pod, and the other one is able to roll really high, get a lucky roll, and take out the Stormlance on the flag. The Arcanist Mechanics do their Arcanist Mechanic thing and fill up the Hyperion on focus. I don't think Assyria ends up casting Crusader's Call this turn. She decides to focus fire on the Stormwall. It does have Arcane Shield, but we see the Hyperion move in and start taking attacks, doing a ton of damage into the Stormwall with its big fists there. With Concentrated Power, it goes to power 23, so it's dice +1, even against the armor 22 Stormwall. And then with Relentless Charge from the new unit attachment, those Dawn Guard Sentinels are going to be able to get through the rubble there and get some attacks in on the Stormwall as well. First of all, we see the Chimera move over in to attack the objective. I believe it had already taken some damage from a Hyperion gunshot already. So with a combo strike from the Chimera, it's able to take the objective out pretty easily. And that scores Mike a 2nd control point. The Dawn Guard Sentinels are able to leverage that Relentless Charge from their new unit attachment to get range through the rubble there and get 4 or 5 charges onto the Stormwall. So combined with all the attacks that the Hyperion was able to put in, they were able to get a bunch of damage off on it. Now, storm walls are usually pretty resilient to infantry charges, but blinding light shutting off or covering fire makes it very difficult for the storm wall to defend itself against these guys. So they're able to get a bunch of damage in and leave it alive on just a couple of boxes. Assyria is moving up now, staying on that flag, and she's putting an ancillary attack through the Hyperion into the storm wall with its fist that ends up taking out the last remaining storm wall boxes. So the big storm wall goes down to repeated attacks from the Dawnguard Sentinels and the Hyperion. Assyria, with the objective killed, goes up to 3 control points, I think, and I only have 1 Mage-Lock Rifleman back there to contest. No, I felt I still had a game here. I was hoping I could just jam up my opponent's stuff. The storm wall obviously being down stops a bunch of that, but if I could get the Firefly and some of my solos up into him, not trigger any vengeances, and just force him to deal with those models before they were able to contest the zone, I could potentially stop him from getting too many models onto my flag, and maybe squeaking out a scenario win by the skin of my teeth. So we have the Stormlance up there, the last remaining Stormlance taking out the Nis Hunter, and then repositioning. That's going to clear up that flag, so I'm going to be able to score it with one of my solos, and I think Stryker ends up dominating it, but here comes Rupert and Arlen running up to try to hold out as many models as possible. So we have the Firefly moving up, Rupert and then Arlen moving up to just jam and stop models from getting in on. Stryker runs to the flag, and I score my 3rd control point for the game. I'm really going to need to get enough attacks to destroy my opponent's objective in order to have a hope of winning, but I do contest his flag with the Mage-Lock Rifleman. Iris taking an aim shot first of all on my opponent's turn, and ends up taking out the Mage-Lock Rifleman to clear the flag there. Now that is probably the end of the game. I don't have any models to contest Assyria's flag, so she's going to be able to continue to score on my turn. So even if I can score up to 5 points on my turn, she's going to go up to a winning score as well. We still have models going in to kill off the solos that I sent into jam, but that is essentially all she wrote at that point. The Firefly gets beat up by the Dawnguard Sentinels pretty hardcore, and then the Hyperion moves up to get some attacks on it as well. Now, defense 13, I think, annoys the Hyperion a little bit. Rupert and Arlen have already gone down, and the Firefly takes a ton of damage and eventually is taken out. So some models move over to block line of sight to Assyria, but she's camping enough focus that there isn't really an assassination run on the table that's really worthwhile. My only hope at this point, I'm not going to win. Mike's just going to score on my turn and then contest my flag and win. But I was hoping to at least destroy his objective and score a couple extra points. Unfortunately, I mess up a little bit. I could get potentially an Arcane Blast from Stryker as well as a gunshot, and I mismove him a little bit, not really thinking about it. Trigger an admonition on the Chimera, and end up not scoring any points for the turn. So that is going to be game. That's the end of Nova Open Masters, and I hope you guys enjoyed this game. Obviously, it was a good game, and I ended up having a good time regardless of the outcome. But I hope you guys enjoyed this battle report. Stay tuned for some more battle reports of convention coverage. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to record too much, but I do have my rig going to Warmachine Weekend in a couple weeks. So I'll see if I can get some games from Warmachine Weekend, hopefully from the Invitational, and that depends entirely on the Privateer Press guys. But stay tuned for that. And again, please take a look at the dice giveaway. It would be super awesome if you guys entered for that, and also consider supporting my Patreon to get more awesome videos out. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this battle report, and have a good day.